This is great. You guys see this? Check out this Giants fan. Fell asleep at the game yesterday. How hard was he out? His friends started stacking cups on his head. Guy never even woke up.
Oh, man. Well, yeah,
that ain't right.
That's just, I mean, that's not falling asleep. That's passed out. So the big distinction between nodding off, falling asleep, and he might have drunk
Maybe he drank all that.
Yeah, I would imagine. Come on, man. Your team's actually winning games now, man.
That's no friend, though.
You need better friends if that's what's going down when you fall asleep.
I try to tell my wife, when I'm asleep, don't mess with me, don't do nothing. There ain't nothing funny. I'm asleep. That's why you go to sleep, not to be disturbed.
Okay. Wow.
And she wants to do all kinds of crazy stuff and everything.
When Chris takes a nap today, because I know he's going to be tired. I know he's going to be tired after watching all that football late last night. Man, do something funny to him.
That's just
shaving cream on his hand, tickle his nose or something.
You put the
That's
hand
probably
in
not
hot
going to
water.
end well for the person that decides to do that to CC.
Yeah.
But if it's his wife,
How mad
Them
could
early
she be?
days, man, just living in the projects, when you just always wake up fighting. You just wake up fighting, you know? And then, all right?
All right,
Baby
Canty.
Sue, don't listen to Nick.
Let's talk about the Browns and the Ravens. The Browns were supposed to be tested against this tough Baltimore team, but Nick Chubb did not get that memo. The second-year running back went off 165 yards on 20 carries. Math in my head tells me that's about 8 yards per carry. Chubb added a career-high 3 touchdowns. Browns beat the Ravens 40-25. Both teams now move to 2-2 on the year. Here's Baker Mayfield on all those Browns critics.
The win's great, but I hope everybody keeps the same energy. Throw us in the trash. We won't forget it.
Of course, because that was the takeaway from the game, the critics and what everyone's writing about. Kenny, what do you think the key was for this Browns win?
Well, it's the Browns' commitment to the run game. I mean, Freddie Kitchens recognizes that the deficiency on the offensive side of the ball is that offensive line. So this might come as a news flash to football fans, but guess what? Offensive lines are a lot better going forward than they are going backward. When you look at the advantages that the offense has, they know the snap count and they know where they're going. And so when you're running the football, you're forcing the defense to be reactive to you. You're the ones that are the aggressors. And yesterday you saw that with the Cleveland Browns offense. They were very aggressive in that game. The first drive, they ended up having a 3-and-out, but then that second drive, it's a 13-play, 84-yard drive, and they took up 8.5 minutes on the clock. They won time of possession 18 minutes to 12 minutes in the first half against the Baltimore Ravens, and that's when you started to see the opportunities for the chunk plays come in the second half. In yesterday's game, that Browns offense had 10 plays of 16 yards or more. So you're talking about one of the best defenses in the NFL year in and year out, and that Browns offense was able to find a way to work around having a shaky offensive line and have explosive plays. But I think it starts with their commitment to being able to run the football.
I gave him advice on Friday. I didn't think he would listen because Baker's always saying the media's throwing him in the trash. We haven't thrown him in the trash, but I did tell him if they watch some football on Thursday night, do what Philadelphia did as far as going on the road, because I got a lot of respect for Lambeau Field. There's no place where I've lost more than in Lambeau Field. So there's a certain mentality that it takes to be able to win a game. Canty, you've played there in Baltimore. You know what type of defense they play and attitude. So the attitude that Cleveland had from losing last week and what transpired in this game, to me, was the most impressive thing. Yes, there were some X's and O's, but from the time they entered that stadium, Freddie Kitchens, which I thought was not the best thing, won the toss. They decide they're going to take the ball. Now, they didn't get points in that first drive, but it sends a message to my team, Canty. This is the type of mentality we're taking here in Baltimore, and this is what it's going to be able to take to win. They went back to what he did last year when he was named the coach. We're going to go 2 tight ends. We're going to go formation where we can run the ball, and we're going to give our offensive line an opportunity. And that's why last year this offensive line finished, surprisingly, as a Pro Football Focus top 10 ranked offensive line. And we thought there were still question marks coming into this season, but yesterday was their bright moment of the season. They dominated the line of scrimmage, Nick.
It's a fork-in-the-road moment for the team. You're playing the 2-1 Ravens, who have looked excellent all year. You've looked bad even in your win. With a loss, you go 2 games back in your division with them having the tiebreaker, and people are really throwing you in the trash. And the response was Freddie Kitchens went back to his roots, if you will. The offensive line played its best game of the year. Those two are undoubtedly correlated. Baker Mayfield in the biggest spot of his very young career, had the best game he's had all season. And I want to talk about Baker for a second, because I understand his personality is going to continue to rub some people the wrong way. And even after a win, continuing to lash out at the haters, if you will.
I think that we have such a stereotype. We have such a cookie cutter for our quarterbacks that anyone that's any different than mainstream, they're going to have a hard time as far as being accepted as an NFL starting quarterback.
And for Baker, let's just, you are not a 6-foot-tall walk-on quarterback that then becomes a Heisman Trophy winning #1 overall pick if you don't have a bit of bleep you factor, and where you are creating either fake doubters or real doubters and lashing out at them. There's an element of Allen Iverson to Baker Mayfield, which is part of what got you there is what is going to turn some people off to you forever. And it's why I think if we're going to watch the Browns, whether you like it or not, and I'm not begrudging anyone for not liking it, you've got to get used to it. Because it's not inauthentic. It's not fake. This is who he is, and I would argue it is part of the reason he's been so successful, because there's a lot of reasons Baker Mayfield shouldn't be where he is. His mentality is one of the biggest reasons he is where he is.
I don't have an issue with Baker Mayfield's mentality. What I do have an issue with is when he addresses the media, some of the things that he comments on, it seems like he's focusing on the outside noise that they spend a lot of time saying, you know what, that's not a distraction in terms of us handling our business. My thing with the quarterback is, he's responsible for setting the agenda for the team. The quarterback is an extension of ownership in the front office. So that's a big responsibility on those shoulders for Baker Mayfield. And he's got to understand the platform that he has, not just with the media and the fans, but with his guys in the locker room. Because when he's talking to the media, he's also sending a message to the guys in the locker room. So that's the biggest thing for me with the Browns, because this has been a team through the first 3 weeks of the season that hasn't executed at a real high level.
But we're not, but I agreed. But listen, you can say that that's the wrong message to be sending to the locker room, but it's going to be the consistent message. He is going to be different than these other quarterbacks. You said that, Chris, when he was drafted. And through 3 weeks, they weren't consistent. Through their 4th week, in their biggest game of the year, they played great in a way that all of a sudden, after an awful month, they're in first place in their division.
Here's the thing, Nick. I don't need my quarterback to be somebody that's the one that's making the waves. I need my quarterback to be a stabilizing force in my locker room, and I don't need my team to be up and down. That's the thing that concerns me with Baker Mayfield. But listen, yesterday, the team went out there and executed. We talked about the Cleveland Browns last week being the most penalized team in the league, averaging 15 called penalties a game. Yesterday, only 6 penalties for 41 yards. So a part of being able to win games in the NFL is making sure that you don't do the things that cost you games. And so the offense did that. They handled their business. Got to give some love to Steve Wilkes and that defense. They kept them in the game. I mean, forcing Lamar Jackson to hold the ball a lot longer than he wanted to. Some coverage sacks. The 4 turnovers in the second half, including the turnover on downs. And to me, the big one, the Mark Ingram fumble, which turned the tide and ended up giving them a double-digit lead. But to me, this Cleveland Browns team, they put it together all 3 phases for the first time this season in yesterday's game.
Yeah, I think that Baker, like most people, because Baker's really smart, I think that as you stay in this business longer, I've been covering this league a long time, and I think I'm better today than I ever have been covering it. And it's not because I said I wasn't going to change. It was because I was committed to change it. And most of my personality is exactly the same, but as you get more information, you get an opportunity to change. I expect Baker Mayfield to change, because regardless of what we expect from our quarterback, all of them have the same assignments as far as you have to be the spokesperson for the team. You have to do certain things. Now, we don't care how you go about doing it based on the different personalities, but realize there's another agenda, and you can't fight the media 16 weeks. It's not a battle you will ever win. So when you come into the locker room, when you come into the media afterwards, you need to start talking about, what about that offensive line? Because they weren't blocking media members this week. They were blocking the Ravens, and they did a hell of a job. Yep. And sometimes I need my quarterback to tell people about my offensive line, because no one else is going to be talking about them. So as he gets older, I can guarantee you, when he was at Texas Tech, he was a little bit different. Once he went to Oklahoma, after he won the Heisman Trophy, he was a little bit different. And I'm not knocking what he did, I'm just saying, as a leader, we need you to be on your messaging point every time you come to that podium, and you can't chase ghosts as far as the media. It's exhausting, and you just can't keep making stuff up. That offensive line did a great job, and that should have been one of his talking points as far as, man, what a tremendous job the offensive line gave to, so I can do my job.
I like that he's brash, and I like that he's got a personality, and I like that he's going to lead in his own way. My issue was, if you're going to be angry after a loss, fine. Don't be angry after a win. Don't come out after a win and be like, well, see, we won.
And,
so.
I guess my point is, and I'll leave it at this, is when Canty says, I want my quarterback to be this way, and you're saying, don't be this way, then you're not going to want your quarterback to be Baker, and you're not going to like him after a win, because maybe he will evolve after years. But this is, for the time being, the only way he knows how to be, and the idea that he's going to, it's the only way he's ever been. It's the only way he's ever been.
You don't say if someone's done something. We talked about this with Vontaze Burfict. It's the only way he ever was. So, well, this is him.
Did he
this
change?
is who he is. He hasn't changed.
But he's one of 1,600. The other 1,600 have changed.
Yeah, I understand, but
he's not in a good place right
Baker,
now.
Okay, but I don't think, when Baker Mayfield is taunting the University of Kansas, and when he's the Heisman Trophy winner, and they're the worst team in Division I, that is who he's always been. Maybe one day he will have an epiphany. That day ain't coming week 5 against the Niners, win or lose.
But just because he's that way doesn't mean it's okay.
I guarantee when Baker gets older, he's going to look back and be like, you know something? That wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
All right, Kenny.
See, I've been old and young. Y'all still young.
Coming up, can the Patriots defense continue to
Jenna got the
carry
fountain of
Tom
youth
Brady?
right over there. She's drinking it every day.
And that offense, double fisting. That's next on First Things First.